Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching an attack from Israel to Natanz. Is a strike that hit Natanz and Karaj nuclear sites. Tehran just declared a state of emergency. What you're watching is a live stream from Reuters. I was not planning to do a video tonight, but the reality, the historical realities moved me to create this video almost improvised because I was not prepared to engage this at this time of the evening. The bombardment that you have seen that had been taking place for pretty much for more than an hour, those fires that you see from missile attacks and bombardment from Israel makes no sense. Why? Because Donald Trump 3 or 4 hours ago said that he was not going to attack. He said that he was not going to attack. That's what he said, that he's not going to attack. But his proxy, Israel, did it for him. He said, no, everything is fine. We have an agreement. The memorandum of understanding is going to be signed soon. Everything going well. We're going to have a deal. We're going to have a deal. I even stopped the order to attack Iran. What kind of game is this? He stopped the order to attack Iran, but then Israel did it? I'm wondering if Israel did that for Donald Trump or did it in his back. I'm not sure the complexities of this, but this is very serious. If Donald Trump said that he's not going to attack and Israel does it by himself, I don't want Donald Trump to say, oh, that's not my fault. I didn't do it. It was not my fault. That was Israel. To blame Israel. But the reality is that the reality that we see is what we have. The reality that we see is that there is a total destruction of what is happening right now in Tehran. And nobody cares, apparently, nobody cares to do something in regard to that. That's the reality that we're facing right now. And I'm trying to reconnect with the Reuters, and I'm having problem with my interface of these to engage. Here we are. It's getting clear now in Tehran. Citizens of the United States, patriots. The reality is that we're facing a big situation in the United States. Our presidency is compromised. Compromised by a foreign country. Compromised by billionaires from another country. All the situation that we're facing right now, all the bombardment that we're seeing in Iran is something that started a year ago with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was the turning point. Not Turning Point USA. He was part of the Turning Point USA. But the reality is that he wanted to step away from the influence of Israel and the puppet master from Israel, because he saw the genocide of the Israeli government and the military with the Palestinian people, and he started facing out, but he was extremely influenced because of his knowledge and persuasion abilities, which is natural to convince people. And and I apologize for the advertising. I'm trying to see if I can silence or cancel. That was Charlie Kirk wanted to stop the situation of killing women and children in Palestine. And Charlie Kirk never had the chance of seeing the things that happened later in Lebanon, in which he was destroying people, supposedly Hezbollah, when in reality he was destroying everybody because they wanted to occupy that part of the territory for Israel. And that's the bottom line. Land grab. Land grab is from the Gaza Strip, from the Palestinian, and Lebanon, and Syria, and many others. Jordan, that's the big Israel. That's the objective. But the reality is that turning point of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which they blame a patsy, and I'm not saying that because I have personal knowledge. It's the opinion of many people online in independent media that the way the incident happened in daylight is something that can be done only by intelligent community operatives, in this case the Mossad or the CIA or M6 or the British or the American or the Israeli. Donald Trump was intelligent in making a small circle in which he demanded loyalty to him. But when you do the sworn in is for the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign or domestic. And most of these were close to fanaticism. I'm not talking about accusations from the right or the left that all the MAGA people are fanatics. No, not true. There are few. Some people call loyal, some people call fanatic. But the reality is that the people that have common sense are not going to buy this situation. The reality is that there are few critical thinkers around the inner circle of Donald Trump. Those that were knowledgeable and willing to tell the truth were purged, especially out of the military. And then you have few others that resigned and others that were expelled because they were not willing to accept the rules of being in the government, in the Donald Trump administration. And one of the things is that you cannot say anything against Israel. One of the interesting point was last year when Tulsi Gabbard, then Director of National Intelligence, in the congressional hearing, he said that Iran at that time had no nuclear weapons. No nuclear weapons. A week later, the press corps confronted Donald Trump with the idea of what she said and said, Mr. President, why do you want to attack Iran if your member of your cabinet said that they don't have nuclear bomb? And then he said, she's wrong. Who said that? the director of national intelligence. She's wrong. So, you don't believe your own people when they tell you the truth, but you believe advisors that come from the government of Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel. That makes no sense at all. Or, for one reason or the other, he persuades you to do things that the majority of the people of the United States does not make sense at all. Unless someone has something and is threatening you to make public something that happened 20, 30, 40 years ago, and it's a compromise, and that is called blackmail in simple terms. And if somebody's blackmailing you, I'm sorry to hear that, and I'm sorry if that is the truth, but the reality is that the people put hope on you and think that you're going to be able to do the right thing. Or that the other face of this is that we believe or we understand that if you were the author of all of this by your own intention and objective from the beginning, then you were, Mr. President, the best sales politician in the history of the United States. Donald Trump was the best sales politician in the United States, in the history of the United States. Why? He proposed no wars, and we're engaged in war. He proposed no inflation. He promised to cut the credit card's interest to 10%. He said that he's going to end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. He said he's going to open the Epstein files to the public. He promised too many things and many others that make no sense. But to keep in the public spot and to try to be seen like a winner, he kidnapped a head of state, President Maduro, against all the international law of war, and law of the sea, with the ambiguous accusation of being the head of a drug trafficking gang in Venezuela, in violation of the principle of territorial jurisdiction. He didn't care that he was doing an arrest in another country, head of state in another country, that intimidated not only the people close by, but the whole world was in shock, because they could not believe that Donald Trump was capable of doing something like that. He used Puerto Rico, a territory of the United States that years ago he said that he's going to exchange that for Greenland. Now he's militarizing Puerto Rico again in the old Roosevelt Road space to launch from Puerto Rico attacks against Venezuela, perhaps Colombia, perhaps Cuba, and who knows who else, to make the action, the military action, make him look good. It's just a show. He used to be a showman, and he's using the presidency not with the seriousness that required for a show. But then his ego is going too high, and he sometimes portrays himself like if he is the Pope, like if he is Jesus, like if he is God. the American people is tired of this. We don't like the hike of the inflation in groceries, in the gasoline, in the electricity bill, and many other basic necessities that we have in the United States. Cost of living is skyrocketed. There is a report today that the inflation hit 4.2 and it keep climbing. I was one of the supporters of Donald Trump. I used to have my hat and I used to promote Donald Trump. I mean, friends and family. And apparently, I guess, I drank the Kool-Aid too. I was trapped in his speeches, in his promises, and look what is happening down there. No more wars. The war in Ukraine is going to be end in 24 hours. No inflation. Credit card costing 10%. Epstein files open to the public for review. But then he ordered the Justice Department to control the information that's released to the public. He said that Ukraine had nuclear wars, nuclear bombs, but Tulsi Gabbard last year in congressional hearing, she said that she doesn't have intelligence that proved that Iran had nuclear bomb. In other words, she's the head of all the intelligence agencies, she was, of all the intelligence agencies in the United States, and the report that she gathered indicates that at that time, Iran did not have nuclear bombs. They may have some enrichment uranium, but we have to keep in mind that uranium not only is used to create bombs, but also for nuclear reactor to produce electricity. So we have to take that in consideration as well. Tulsi Gabbard said that. The press confronted Donald Trump with that statement, and they asked him what is his position of the member of the cabinet that says that Iran doesn't have nuclear bomb. And Donald Trump said, "Who said that?" Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence. And he was furious, and he said, "She's wrong." She was the head of the Director of National Intelligence, of the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. She monitored the other intelligence agencies. She was the top high advisor for the president in that kind of field of the intelligence. And he dismissed right away without talking to her. Because he's compromised with the Mossad, with the presidency of Netanyahu, and the Netanyahu advisors to the President of the United States. That is what's happening here. Donald Trump listened more to Israel than to his own people. That's why he purged a lot of people from the government and from the military. Every time you have a general 4-star general, 3-star general that was reluctant to do what they were all ordered to, they were purged, or they're forced to retire, or they decided to retire. So you have a lot of people retiring from the government because they get sick and tired of that. That's why Tucker Carlson left the movement. Candace Owens, Megyn Kelly, and many others that were strong supporters of Donald Trump before and became the most critical people to the Donald Trump administration. But always you have these fanatics that when they see someone that is going against the leader, they start threatening the person, like what happened with Marjorie Taylor Greene, that also was encouraging the disclosure of the Epstein file. And Donald Trump was tired of what she was doing, to the point that she started accusing her of being a traitor. She's a traitor, she's a stupid, she's not intelligent, and she started getting threats, not only her, but her family. And that's why she decided to cut ties, and even she resigned to the Congress because she didn't want it to be. He was planning to put a candidate against her so he can remove her from the Congress. But he did it before because she took the initiative, and she said, I'm not going to engage in the fight. I'm not going to primary. I'm going to resign. And the people have more respect to her because of the way she left the government. Because she's still in the spotlight. Because all the media, left and right, wanted to interview her. Marjorie Taylor Greene was one of the most strongest supporters of Donald Trump. And line up with Tucker, Candace Owens, Megyn Kelly, and many others. But he treated her like trash. How in the world a president of the biggest country in the world, of the strongest country in the world with the biggest economy, treat a member of the House of Representatives like if she was nothing? And she's doing the same thing with the press corps that goes in the White House and interview him. When the person asks something that is sensitive or critical, all he do is insulting, treat the person like if it's nobody, that the person should not even be there. We need decorum in the United States. We lost the decorum that we used to have, even with Democrats. Donald Trump or his advisors from the National Security Agency National Security Council need to advise the government, the president, that the balance of power change. They need to face that. We're no longer in a unipolar world. We're in a multipolar world in which China, Russia, and other countries have influence and power capable to change the balance of power. It's not only one centralized center that used to be, in which the United States controlled the whole world. First with the gold, the dollar, and the petrodollar. But now, China, Russia, Brazil, North Korea, Iran, India are in the BRIC, a new economic system. And the West are not happy about it. And Donald Trump still and his advisors still have the old mentality that the United States have to rule the world. And now, because there have been attempts from China and Russia to influence South America, now he realized that the backyard of the United States is in threat. And now he's planning to invade Cuba, maybe Colombia, and even Mexico. And he could launch many attacks from Puerto Rico. He can launch attacks from Guantanamo. I don't know what the rules of engagement will be there. All I know is that they're expanding operations in Puerto Rico. Things are getting really bad. And this can escalate in something worse than what we're seeing. I am not happy of the people are killing that have been killed in Iran tonight. These pictures that you're seeing is a live stream from Reuters. That destruction that we saw before, that continue to come, a result of multiple attacks from Israel, have no justification at all after the president publicly saying that he will not attack Iran. I see this as a slap in the face of Donald Trump by Netanyahu. He doesn't care the arrangement that the president is trying to do to stop the war. Netanyahu is the worst person that he can have in the White House. Worse than Zelensky, the president of Ukraine. And that's something that's hard for me to say, because I am one of the people that oppose Zelensky and the game in Ukraine, and the Ukrainians are paying the price for not being more wise in the exchange and the reality of Russia. But that's another topic from another video, podcast, in reality to do that. Right now, what you see are the result of the bombardment in Iran tonight, Friday to Saturday, Central Standard Time. It's horrible. Each place, people die. Some of them are, as I said before, nuclear sites. So they're going to be radiation, exposition of radiation, if they were able to trigger the areas in which you have the nuclear uranium, the nuclear uranium or enriched uranium in those plants. Ladies and gentlemen, with this we're going to conclude this podcast from Preemptive Action Media, and I'm the host as the geopolitical researcher, Peter Correger. God bless you all. God bless the United States of America, and may the Lord of Lords, Yeshua of Nazareth, enlighten the brain of Donald Trump so he can turn around and change the pathway that he's taking. Amen and good night for you all.